I have a question for you. What's your AI backup plan? This is something that I don't hear anybody in the AI world having this conversation. I'm not talking about your AI strategy and I'm not talking about your list of tools or anything like that. I mean, what happens when you wake up, you go to work, or you log onto your computer, and the thing that you've built half of your workflow around, the AI, just isn't working? Because that morning is coming, and maybe it's a security breach, maybe the company has changed, maybe the company's had an outage. It doesn't really matter what causes it. What matters is, what do you do next? What's your plan? Welcome to Success Redefined. I'm Bella St. John, and today let's have the conversation that nobody seems to want to have, and I don't know why. And that is, what happens when it goes pear-shaped. That's not an if, it's a when. And if you're standing there with clients to serve and no idea how to do the things you were doing fine yesterday without AI, this is something you really need to think about. So this is what I'm seeing. I'm working with smart business owners who they've done exactly what the experts, quote unquote, the gurus, quote unquote, have told them to do. And they've adopted AI into their operations. And by the way, one thing that does bug me is how many organizations are just adopting AI for the sake of adopting AI, not with any consideration about whether or not it's the right thing to adopt AI as they're doing it. But that's a whole other video. Anyway, they're using AI for client communication and for content and all sorts of things. And I'm not anti-AI. I help people use it. I have a whole program, huge program on AI literacy, for Pete's sake. But what I'm noticing is that very few of them have thought about what happens if the tool disappears tomorrow. And I don't mean permanently. It could just disappear for a day or a week or maybe a few days. What happens to your organization? What safeguards do you have in place? One thing when I'm working with organizations that I often ask is, what's your alien abduction plan? And yes, I'm being tongue in cheek, but for this particular person, I mean, what happens if in an instant they're no longer able to do their job? Does the organization stop? What plans do you have in place? You need to be thinking the same way about your AI. If all of a sudden that disappears, does your organization come to a stop? If your email sequences are built inside an AI tool and that tool has an outage, can you still communicate with your clients? Do you still have access to your client database? These aren't paranoid questions. They are basic business continuity questions. And they're questions that I really wish more organizations were having. And I think part of the reason that this conversation isn't happening right now is almost everything is about adoption. Everyone's talking about getting ahead and staying competitive, and there is real pressure in that. And I'm not suggesting that you don't have those conversations. If you're a business owner, it's like every second article is telling you that AI is going to transform your industry, and it is. But speed without a fallback is just a dependency that is going to lead to a very unsightly conclusion. And dependency is a business risk. It always has been, whether we're talking about AI or a key supplier or the number of organizations that I've seen where they just have a single client who's responsible for 70-80% of their revenue. And then all of a sudden that client disappears. I mean, I had that situation 20 odd years ago, and it wasn't pretty. And AI is no different. So here's what I want you to think about. So here's 4 things. First of all, do you know what AI you're dependent on? And I don't just mean the tool, and I don't just mean in a vague sense. I mean specifically, Which parts of your business currently need an AI tool to function? Write them down, and if that list is longer than you expected, that's also worth paying attention to. Second, for each of those things, could you do without the AI tool? I'm not saying could you be as effective. I'm saying that if the AI is not available for X period of time, could you still deliver? Could you still serve your clients? Could you still run your business? If the answer is no, that's not a technology problem. That's a business continuity problem. Third, do you know where your data is? And again, I'm not saying the particular cloud storage or this, that. When you put client information into an AI tool, do you know where it's being stored? Do you know who has access to it? Do you know what happens if there is a breach? Because your clients are trusting you with their information. And oh, terribly sorry, I didn't realize that AI was storing it in this way or in this place, is not an answer that protects that trust. And particularly if you're in certain industries, that's not an answer that is going to satisfy the regulators, and they have teeth. Number 4. Do you have a manual version of your critical processes? I know this sounds very old-fashioned, and anybody who's known me or done any, been in any of my coaching programs or whatever, you will know that I am very much an old-fashioned quote-unquote person when it comes to this. I like knowing that for the critical processes and systems and data, I have a physical, old-fashioned backup. It's not so that you can run that way forever, and I'm not suggesting we go back to running things on index cards and handwritten spreadsheets. What I am saying is this is part of your backup plan, just so that you can keep the lights on long enough while the AI or you or whatever it happens to be figures out the next move. Think of it like a backup generator. You don't run your house or your organization or your hospital on a generator every day. But when the power goes out, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty glad that there's a backup generator in a hospital if there is a power outage. And I want to be clear, I'm not talking about a doomsday, unlikely worst case scenario. What I'm talking about is just if something goes down, and it will, it's happening left, right, and center in various ways. This is a conversation I'm not hearing happen, and I just would like you to think about it and to take some time and to consider what is your continuity of business, your COB. Same as they have continuity of government. What happens if something happens government-wise? We have continuity of government, COG plans. Well, it's about time, if you don't have one, that where AI is concerned, you consider your COB plan, your continuity of business. Because right now, a lot of businesses are building on something that they don't own, that they don't control, and they can't guarantee. And they haven't thought about it because everyone around them is too busy talking about how exciting it all is. And it is exciting, but it's also a dependency. And both things can be true at the same time and actually are true at the same time. So I really do hope this has been of use. If you'd like more assistance or specific support or whatever, feel free to reach out, leave some comments, whatever it happens to be. But whatever you do, have your own quote-unquote alien abduction plan for your organization. Because if AI disappears in an instance, like I said, if one employee disappears in a moment for whatever reason, God forbid they have a health situation or whatever it is, if all of a sudden they're not there doing their job, does your business come to a grinding halt? You need to be thinking exactly the same way with regard to AI. So I'm Bella St. John. This is Success Redefined. Until next time, thank you for being here. Bye.